Chapter 50. Jean was the best in bed. The whole place was in an uproar. Fortunately, the wedding host was eloquent and good at dealing with all kinds of temporary accidents. He quickly brought the wedding back. Nonetheless, from then on, everyone was not so focused on the wedding. Even the bride and groom smiled insincerely throughout the entire wedding. The ceremony ended. Jean held George's hand and left the scene immediately. All the guests also left one after another and went to the Swan family's banquet hall for lunch. Jean did not plan to go for lunch. She did not want to cause unnecessary trouble. As such, she brought George directly to the main gate. The Swan family's residence was too big. Jean walked for quite a while. A black car stopped in front of her. Jean's eyes moved slightly. She looked at the woman from before. The woman walked toward her. There were two bodyguards behind her. Under the contrast of the tall and burly bodyguards, the woman looked even more petite, like a fairy. If Jean were a man, she would be moved. What was Fourth Master Swan thinking? Jean looked at the woman in front of her. The woman said, "I'm Melody Sanders." Sanders. The national family name. Great. Fourth Master Swan drew someone with a high status like her to me. Hello. Jean appeared very polite. What's your relationship with Edward? Melody was straightforward and had a strong aura. It was completely different from her soft appearance earlier. Would you believe me if I said there's no relationship between us? Why did he kiss you then? Why did he kiss you in front of so many people? Do you know that Fourth Master Swan is sick? Jean was very serious. Jean Lawrence. Obviously, the other party was angry. Jean pursed her lips. At this moment, she did not know how to express her bitterness. She just looked at Melody like that. Melody was angry. She said, "Stay away from Edward, or I'll teach you a lesson." After saying that, she got into the car accompanied by her bodyguards. The luxurious car drove away. Jean looked in the direction of the car. She sighed. Jean held her son's hand and continued to leave. Her phone rang at this time. She took a glance at the incoming call and picked it up. "Jean, how did you seduce my fourth uncle?" A low and depressed voice came from the other side. It was probably because the person was hiding in a corner and making a phone call but was afraid of being heard by outsiders. "Do you need me to tell you the details? You're so cheap," Eden said fiercely. Jean's expression changed slightly. "When you and Jasmine slept on the same bed, why didn't you think about whether you were cheap or not?" Jean. "Besides, neither he nor I am married," Jean mocked coldly, "so what if I hook up with your fourth uncle? At most, you can address me as your fourth aunt. You won't lose anything else. In your dreams." Eden was agitated and could not hide his emotions. He roared angrily, "What's your status? What right do you have to marry my fourth uncle? Let me tell you, the third princess of the Sanders has taken a fancy to my fourth uncle. Today, she specially came to look for him. You have a child, so what right do you have to compete with her?" "What right do I have?" Jean sneered. "I'm better than her in bed. Unfortunately, you couldn't experience it. You won't be able to experience it in your entire life." Jean enunciated each word clearly. After saying that, she abruptly hung up the phone. Jean did not want to waste her breath on insignificant people. She pulled George along and prepared to continue walking forward. "Ms. Lawrence." A respectful male voice came from behind. Jean turned her head. In annoyance, she saw Teddy. Jean did not know when Teddy had stood behind her. Teddy was also a little embarrassed. He did not intentionally hear her conversation with Eden. Teddy said, "Ms. Lawrence, Fourth Master said that if you don't want to attend the wedding, you can go to his bamboo garden. He'll go and accompany you after he is done." "Who wants him to accompany me?" Jean was a little harsh. Thinking about how Edward had brought her so much trouble today, she could not help but feel angry. Teddy looked at Jean in a daze. Jean regained her composure. At that moment, she even deliberately made herself smile. "Help me thank Fourth Master. I still have things to do, so I won't trouble him." "Ms. Lawrence." Teddy looked like he was about to cry. "There are a lot of mosquitoes in Bamboo Garden. Fourth Master said that if you don't go, I have to continue feeding the mosquitoes. Look, I still have a lot of bites on my arms." As he spoke, he specially rolled up his sleeves for Jean to see. Jean was speechless. Teddy said, "Please, Ms. Lawrence, be merciful." It was clearly Fourth Master Swan who did it. How did Jean become the main culprit instead? How could that man be so sinister? In the end, Jean still followed Teddy to Bamboo Garden. Of course, it was not because Teddy was pitiful. More importantly, she felt that there were some things that she should explain clearly to Edward, that scum. At the wedding venue, in the cloakroom backstage, Eden hung up the phone fiercely. At that moment, he was so angry that he wanted to smash his phone. When exactly did Jean seduce his fourth uncle? During this period, he even especially got someone to keep an eye on his fourth uncle and Jean. The two of them did not have much interaction. How did they get together? He definitely could not let Jean marry his fourth uncle. Not to mention that he could not swallow his anger. More importantly, Jean was his woman. Even if he did not want her, other men could not have her. Not even his fourth uncle. Eden adjusted his emotions and quickly changed into another suit and walked out of the cloakroom. He pushed open the door. At this moment, he was completely stunned. He looked at the man standing in front of him with a strong aura. It was his fourth uncle. Eden's expression changed a little. After a long while, he asked respectfully, "Fourth uncle, you haven't gone to the wedding banquet yet. I was waiting for you. Fourth uncle, is there something you need from me?" Eden appeared very polite. "Don't provoke Jean again. Fourth uncle." Edward Said coldly, "Stay away from her." After saying this, he stood up and left. "What exactly is it about Jean that makes you like her? She has been slept and has a child. She's a woman who has lost her face in upper-class society. Fourth uncle, what do you see in her? Isn't she just a little beautiful? Isn't her figure just a little better? Are you that shallow? Compared to the Sanders' third princess, Jean is worthless." Eden shouted at Edward, "If she's worthless, why are you still thinking about her?" Edward stomped his foot and turned around. "I'm not thinking about her. I just think that it's not worth it for you, fourth uncle. There's no need for you to worry about my matters. You don't have the right to worry about me." Edward did not show any mercy. Eden was speechless. "What's so good about Jean?" Edward raised his eyebrow. "She's the best in bed." Eden's face darkened. "Edward Said, I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Now, no matter what state of mind you have, don't get close to her again. Otherwise, I won't regard you as my nephew." After saying that, he left immediately. At that moment, Eden lost control and smashed his phone. He did not believe what Jean said just now, but now that even his fourth uncle said that she was the best in bed. Did they really sleep together? There's nothing wrong with fourth uncle's body. Did Jean really sleep with him? No, I